When you hire Morgan, it's like bringing in Morgan to a Morgan fight. I'm John Morgan of Morgan and 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 Morgan.
So as my mom and dad would say, right before they tucked us in at night,
Morgan and 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 Morgan.
It's a family tradition. Morgan and
Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and
Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan.
And if you just want to say Morgan, that'd be great too.
Live from Inverness, Florida, this is Andy with Florida Gun Spy, leading a movement to unite Americans to get armed, get trained, and carry daily. Episode 38, a very special law seminar, starts right now. I don't own a gun shop. I lead a movement.
Andy Hallinan.
Andy Hallinan.
Andrew Hallinan, the owner of that Florida gun supply store.
It's not just about guns for us. It's about life and liberty.
The solution to violent crime is for good guys like you and I to unite, to get armed, get trained, and carry daily.
This guy's educated. He's an educated guy. He's speaking the truth. Took so much weight off my shoulders.
We're the kind of patriots you've always wanted to be. Join us. Thank you for joining this Monday night at 9 o'clock. Thumbs up for all of you being here. This is the only Second Amendment broadcast across the country that is designed to help you, the viewer, inspire, encourage, and lead the way to help other Americans to unite, to get armed, get trained, and carry daily. I'm your host, Andy Hallinan, the leader of a Second Amendment movement across this country that is designed to help people like Brian Sharp, Michelle Nieves, Brett McFarland, Nikki Caro, Robert Gwynn, get armed, get trained, and carry daily. And we've got a very special live broadcast for you this evening that is also going to feature a questions and answer time with a real life attorney. Yes, we have found an attorney to join this show tonight to be answering questions as you have. That's going to be a little bit later on. So thumbs up if you're excited about being here, because in this country, we need to get together and be the media, because the media is failing us. It is up to you and I to spread truth and unity in a time of need. We are the media, and it's time to unite.
From millions of gun owners to just tell the truth, to every dishonest member of the failing American news media, let me explain why you've never been less trusted, less credible, or less respected. For decades, you ignored calls from millions of gun owners to just tell the truth. All you had to do was just get the facts right about our guns and our freedom. But you never even pretended to listen. Instead, you weaponized the First Amendment against the Second. And now the whole country sees you for the mockery we've always known. Your claim to the truth is as legitimate as a thief's. If the fate of individual freedom had rested in your hands, America would have fallen long ago. But Americans put their trust somewhere else. And now, in that place, stands the most trusted defender of individual freedom in American history. We're the National Rifle Association of America, and we're freedom's safest place.
We are the National Rifle Association of America, and we are the media. So tonight's show is designed to help Americans like you and I, especially Floridians, understand the law. There are so many rumors and misinformation going around about the law that it's time that we have a special seminar tonight to clarify the law and clarify exactly how, where, and when you can carry concealed, because our goal is to get you to get armed, get trained, and carry daily, especially in an area where we are seeing an increase in violence. Now, before we get started with tonight's show, Jordan Kavanaugh has a niece named Sandy Blair. Sadie Blair just got married to Caleb, and everybody at home watching this video, I want you to comment below with a special word of congratulations to these two starting out their marriage together, and I want you to give the hearts button all across social media as it is Valentine's Day week. Now, here in Valentine's Day week, it's important to understand what is happening in our communities, what is happening across the country. And for those of us who get shopping done on a regular basis, sometimes at all odd hours, for some reason we're seeing a large increase in violence in one of our favorite places to go.
Lady!
It's chaos inside Walmart, and it's happening at stores across America.
Back off of me.
The mayhem can even spill out into the parking lot. In some cities, it's gotten so bad, police say they're finding their resources stretched thin, responding to calls for incidents at Walmart.
So you're looking at this direction because you're looking at the DVDs.
When 20-year-old Ashlyn Rogers was shopping at Walmart for DVDs 2 years ago, she had no idea this guy was wandering up and down the aisles with a baseball bat.
All of a sudden, I hear a swoosh and I collapse on the floor.
Without any warning, the deranged shopper took a swing to the back of Ashlyn's head.
I just remember being hurtled in the floor, not able to move because I was in so much shock and in so much pain.
Ashlyn's attacker was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
You don't expect something like that to happen to you, and for it to happen one time, it makes you think it could possibly happen a second time.
How bad is it? Get this. Last year in Jacksonville, Florida, there were 5,298 calls involving just 16 Walmart stores. Up in Chicopee, Massachusetts, there's just one Walmart.
So we're getting the picture, right? Walmart is a dangerous place to go. One of the questions I have is if you, in the state of Florida, see a sign on the outside of Walmart's door that says no firearms, are you allowed to carry or not? I want you to answer your comments below. Let me know in the state of Florida if you're allowed to carry if you see a sign outside of Walmart that says no firearms while we watch one of the other great epidemics facing Americans today.
Brace yourself for what you are going to see. The guy approaching the car is about to go completely bananas. First, he threatens the driver.
You're going to be in a hospital if you don't get out of here.
No, you can't bring a weapon out on me.
Yes, I can, because I have one.
And then he goes nuts with a metal stick.
Get out of here!
Damian Dallin recorded the entire scary encounter. He says the fight stemmed from a money dispute over a landscaping bill.
What's your name? I was in shock.
Unbelievably, after
So everybody is commenting below. Sean Russell says yes. Meg Savage says yes. Sandy Harrington says yes, I do carry at Walmart. James Johnson says yes. The answer is absolutely. Here in the state of Florida, there are some particular places that you are not allowed to carry. For instance, you cannot carry into any school, into a hospital, if the hospital has a mental ward in it. You are not allowed to carry into a post office. You are not allowed to carry into a meeting of legislative body. In other words, you can go to City Hall as long as City Hall does not have a meeting of any sort of legislative body right then and there that are governing it. If they are not having any sort of meeting, you are legally allowed to carry, but you don't know when their meetings are going to take place, so it is best if you do not carry at City Hall. Now, these are just some of the places that you cannot carry in the state of Florida, like a nuclear facility or anything like that. And we're going to be going over use of force later on in the show when Lindsay takes a stand and is able to testify for us as an attorney and her background and everything like that to let us know about use of force. But we want to go over the places you can and cannot carry in the beginning. Now, those of you who are watching this video, we're gonna talk about road rage here for a second. I want you to comment below and tell me what sort of places that you're not allowed to carry in the state of Florida. So I want you to comment below with places that you know you cannot carry. I'm gonna go ahead and play this video again with the road rage, and we're gonna talk about it from there.
The attacker gladly identifies himself.
What's your name?
Dennis Tissington.
Then the back window gets smashed, and Damian had enough.
Get out of here!
He drove off. There's more. This involves a shocking road rage in Gainesville, Florida. Two vehicles pull into a gas station for the nasty confrontation. Watch as two women get out of the black pickup truck. One of them is wielding a gun. Before she can cause any harm, her friend wrestles the weapon out of her hand. Jacob Sylvester was charged with assault and battery, but he's refusing to identify the gun-toting lady friend. Luckily, no shots were fired.
Don't hit me.
Wait.
Luckily, no shots were fired. Now, we've got a lot of comments down below of places that we cannot carry. Brian Sharp says bars, sporting events. Mike Moore says a police station. Dorothy Walker says schools, courthouse, bars. Nikki Carroll says clubs and bars. Scott Fales says courthouse. Charles says places that serve alcohol. Okay, very important. There is a huge designation on places that serve alcohol and places that don't. For instance, Applebee's, TGI Fridays, Outback, Olive Garden, all of those places have bars inside of the facility. And you are not allowed to be sitting at a bar with a firearm on you in the state of Florida. You are not allowed to sit at a place that is designated solely for the distribution of alcohol while you're carrying. But having a meal at Outback, TGI Fridays, Applebee's, all of those places are fine and dandy to be carrying. But if the law basically says if that facility serves 51% or more of its sales in alcohol, you cannot carry there. A good way to understand if that place serves 51% or more are if they smoke inside or they don't serve food. You know right away that you cannot carry there. Meg Savage says schools. Carolyn Hibbs says carry all places, even museums. Bill Kendall says, no clue about Florida. And in Missouri, yes, if you get caught carrying, they can ask you to leave. Then you should leave. If they call the police, it is legal as long as you leave as soon as they do. Now, very, very similar here. For instance, if Brian Sharp goes to his favorite place of favorite beverage place. We all know that Brian Sharp loves to go to Starbucks, and Brian Sharp can go to Starbucks while he's concealed carrying, even in the state of Florida, if they have a sign outside the door that says no firearms. Now, Brian Sharp, we all know, carries a nice pink fluffy purse, and if Brian Sharp goes into Starbucks with his pink fluffy purse and his pink handled revolver inside of his purse and goes to pay for his drink, if a Starbucks employee sees Brian Sharp's pink-handled revolver, Starbucks employees can ask Brian Sharp to leave, either because they don't like that he carries a pink-handled revolver or a pink fluffy purse, or both. They have the legal right to ask Brian to leave for any reason. Now, Brian does have the legal right to carry both his purse and his gun when he has his concealed carry permit, but if he stands there and argues his rights, technically he's right, but they have asked him to leave. He's refusing to do so, which means he's trespassing. And trespass with a firearm is a felony in Florida. It's a year in jail and a $5,000 fine. Now, if Brian just said yes sir, yes ma'am, and takes his gun and his pink purse somewhere that they allow him to carry both, that would be the better solution. Brett McFarland says, nice gun. Carol Hobbs says, I was getting jacked in the parking garage. If I didn't have a gun on me, my kids were not harmed. I called him out. I was getting jacked in the... Yeah, it sounds like Carolyn. Tell us a little bit more about that story as we go. Now, in the last video, we showed you a guy coming up and smashing a window, okay? And I want you guys to tell me... We're going to replay that a little bit. I want you to tell me, would it have been legal for this guy here, the victim, to use his firearm in this situation?
Damien Dallin recorded the entire scary encounter. He says the fight stemmed from a money dispute over a landscaping bill.
What's your name? I was in shock. A weapon out on me.
Yes, I can, because I have one.
And then he goes nuts with a metal stick.
Get out of here!
Damien Dallin recorded the entire scary encounter. He says the fight stemmed from
Did you guys see that?
dispute.
I want you to take a look. This guy comes up out of nowhere.
Brace yourself for what you are going to see. The guy approaching the car is about to go
got this baton in his
bananas. First, he threatens the driver.
You're going to be in a hospital if you don't get out of here.
No, you can't bring a weapon out on me.
Yes, I can, because I have one.
And then he goes nuts with a metal stick.
Breaks the window. Now, I want you to comment below while I answer some of these questions here to tell me if you would engage with a firearm or if it would be lawful. One of the questions that we just saw is Brett McFarland says, Andy, what about state parks? You are legally allowed to carry your concealed firearm in city, state, and federal parks here in the state of Florida. Now, if you see a sign outside of one of the state or city or local parks that say no firearms, that sign is illegal. In fact, if you get arrested for carrying at a city, state, or federal park here in the state of Florida, the arresting officer is guilty of a misdemeanor in the 3rd degree. He must be removed from office by the governor, and he cannot use city, state, or federal funds to protect himself from your lawsuit. Very important that if you do see a sign outside a city, state, or federal park in the state of Florida, you take a picture of that sign and send it to me. We will get that sign taken down. Brian Sharp says, it's a walk-in closet, George. Tony Bufuco, George McClellan says, yes, I would engage. Stephen Van Horn says, yes, I would engage. Scott says, Andy is one awesome guy and his team at Florida Gun Supply. I just went through the class Saturday. Scott, thank you for joining and appreciate you joining and watching this video. Kevin says, yes, the same as kicking in the door of your house. And Charles says, Brian, it's okay to carry pink purse and firearm if you don't want to let anybody bully you about it. And Tony says, yes, he had a W word. I would have used it. And Nolberto Cristobal says yes. And Jacob says, would not engage. Life wasn't in danger, would just drive away. Now, in this situation, where this man comes up with a baton and hits the window after threatening to say, yes, I'm going to send you to the hospital, absolutely, it would have been lawful. Was it the right answer in this situation? Probably not. But would it have been lawful? Absolutely. In fact, if the victim had not used deadly force in that scenario, right away he may not have gotten a second chance. Again, take a look here.
Damian Dallin
take a look one more time. Smash the window. If this aggressor had smashed the window right then and then used the baton again, the victim may not have had a chance to get a round off. Mike Moore says, if you are in fear of your safety, yes. Bill Kendall says, not sure if I would drive off. I have no need of making it worse. I would try to flee. And Carissa says, Jacob, I read about this incident. The guy in the car had been harassing the old man. They were rival landscaping businesses. Now, even if the guy was harassing the old man, it would not have been legal to use violence in this situation against the guy that was in the car. Holding that baton, anything like that, it would not have been lawful. The right response for the older guy would have been to call the cops and let the cops sort it out. This never needed to resort to violence, especially violence that may ultimately lead to deadly force. Now, there's another road rage incident I want to have you take a look at. Take a look at.
He says another road.
Don't hit me.
Wait, we're not done yet.
Look at the bike lane is on this side.
A biker and a driver come face to face in yet another road rage incident, this time in Newport Beach, California.
3 feet. Smack you so good.
And in this case, he doesn't give his real name.
My name is your worst enemy.
3 nasty confrontations.
Now, in that last confrontation there, would it have been legal? I'm going to play it again. Would it have been lawful for the bike guy
we're not
to pull a
done
gun?
Look at the bike lane is on this side.
A biker and a driver come face to face in yet another road rage incident, this time in Newport Beach, California.
3 feet. Smack you so good.
And in this case, he doesn't give.
So you've got a big guy in your face threatening you, putting his finger in your face, saying, I'm going to smack you, I'm going to smack you. Would it have been lawful to use a firearm in that situation? Brian Sharp says absolutely not, no. Carol says, Meg Savage says, Andy, sometimes can you tell me how one can travel with a firearm when you're going through states that won't allow you to carry a gun? I can send you my email. I'll answer that question right now for you, Meg, while people are answering if it would have been legal to use a firearm in that road rage situation. Meg, there is a federal law that protects you from traveling through a state that doesn't honor your right to carry. Now, that brings up a really interesting point. These are all the states that allow you to carry with your Florida concealed carry permit. All the red states allow you to carry, and you can see that the only states that don't allow you to carry are states that are really not worth going to. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Maryland. These are places that you shouldn't really spend your time and you're not allowed to carry. Now, this is a really good list of places that you can learn about at www.handgunlaw.us. But if you are traveling, let's say, from Florida to Maine, you've got to go through a bunch of states that are not legally allowed to have you carry there. New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York. Now, there is federal law that allows you to carry in your vehicle, in your trunk. Your gun must be locked in your trunk. Your ammunition must be separate. And there is a federal law that allows you to travel through that state. But be warned, as soon as you spend a night in that state, you are then stopping there and you are no longer protected by the federal law. You can learn more about that by going to www.nraila.org. That's the National Rifle Association's Institute for Legislative Action. Their website has a really great article on traveling interstate where you don't have the ability to be carrying those states. Now, everybody is saying no about that. Bill Kendall says, not sure. In Missouri, your car is covered by the castle law. Your bike is not. And George McClellan says, not yet. Mike Moore says, I wouldn't. Chuck Schuster says, no, life was not threatened. And Jacob Novotny says, Ohio. I'm not sure what that was about. Brett McFarland says the good states are red. And Charles says Democrat states. Now, Meg says, whoa, I lived in Massachusetts. I will tell you, Meg, that I also grew up in Massachusetts and thankfully moved to the land of the free when I was about 18. Now, those are pretty much the rules that you need to talk about national reciprocity, but think about it for 1 second. National reciprocity is a very important thing that we need to support, and we need to communicate with our local senators about, because it is important to get national reciprocity through. Now, luckily, the National Rifle Association is pushing very, very hard for national reciprocity. I want you to take a look at a point made by Colin Noir, a very famous YouTube guy about national reciprocity. Take a look.
You know the threat is real. You sit in meetings with advisors and operatives who tell you there could be Islamic sleeper cells in every major American community. You know the southern border is a welcome mat for terrorists to enter our towns and neighborhoods at will. You know about their plots to kill us in our shopping malls, our sports stadiums, and our office buildings. You won your office by talking like a champion of freedom. Now it's time to act like one. Pass a national right to carry law that guarantees my constitutional right to defend myself, my family, and my fellow Americans anywhere inside our borders. And make sure the enemies of freedom know the power of freedom. No law-abiding American should be forced to face evil with empty hands. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
National reciprocity is such a common sense measure. For instance, if you get your driver's license in Massachusetts, Connecticut, in fact, if you get your driver's license in any of the states that are great, you can also drive in any of the other states. So in other words, get your driver's license in Massachusetts, you can drive in California. Get your driver's license in California, you can drive in New York. It's a very common sense measure. We need to move that into the concealed carry world, because right now, I'm a federal firearms license dealer. I can be in possession of a gun in all 50 states. However, I cannot have a gun on my person for self-defense in the states that are grayed out. New Jersey, New York, some of the Maryland, DC, all these places I cannot carry. It is very, very important to have a license to carry that is valid in all 50 states. Take a look at one of the National Rifle Association leaders, Chris Cox, making a very good point about concealed carry being a crime in some states.
If 10 states made it a felony to read the New York Times, the media would run the story 24/7 until Congress fixed the assault on the First Amendment. But when 10 states criminalize the Second Amendment, the media says nothing. They don't report that honest, well-meaning people, nurses, stay-at-home moms, veterans, even a disaster relief worker, have been charged with felonies for simply having a lawfully owned firearm. Each was legally licensed to carry a firearm in their home state, but arrested and charged as criminals when safely carrying it through another, less free state. When states can deny one constitutional freedom, they can criminalize the entire Bill of Rights. On behalf of America's 100 million gun owners, we will fight until the full measure of our Second Amendment freedom is restored to every citizen in every corner of the land. We are the National Rifle Association of America, and we're freedom's safest place.
National reciprocity is the biggest, most important thing that may come in our lifetime. The National Rifle Association is very hopeful, and they are working hard to get that going. Now, one of the things that we need to be aware of when we are carrying our concealed firearm is what to do when we get pulled over. The last thing we want to do is get pulled over and blare, "I've got a gun." But take a look at some of the tips for Utah. This is a great little clip. I'm going to play just a little bit of the clip, and then we're going to talk about it here.
More protesting across the country tonight after the police shooting death of a Minnesota man. Investigators say Philando Castile was shot during a routine traffic stop. The officer fired as Castile allegedly reached for his driver's license after telling the officer he had a gun. Well, it raises new concerns for many Utahns who legally keep a firearm inside of their car. What to do in a situation like this one? News specialist Ashley Kewish joins us now live with more. Ashley?
Mike, Utah law says if you legally own a gun, you can have it in your car at any time, regardless of the fact if you have a concealed carry permit or not. But if you do get pulled over, what do? What are the proper steps to take? Like most of us, Brett Crockett begins most days by getting in his car. However, when this man gets in his car, it's always with a gun on his hip. In fact, for the past 6 years, he's made guns part of his job.
You know, in America, we have a long tradition of firearms ownership, and it's something that we take pride in.
He's the co-owner of Crockett Defense, which provides concealed weapons training.
He just shot his arm off.
Like many, the events in Minnesota troubled him.
It was a tough video to watch. It was kind of a wake-up call, I think, for a lot of people.
He told to get his hand out.
It's something he says could happen to anyone.
Oh, it definitely could.
He says there's a pretty big gap in gun training, and that's what to do when you're pulled over.
If I was just pulled over by a police officer, I would roll down all my windows. If it was nighttime, I'd turn on the dome light.
Then, if there's time, he recommends placing your driver's license, registration, and concealed carry permit, if you have one, on the dash. As the officer approaches, make it known you have a gun. Lastly, Crockett wants people to remember there is no such thing as a routine stop for law enforcement officers.
These are all great points, okay? Now, in the state of Florida, I want you to let me know down below in the comments. First of all, hit the thumbs up if you support law enforcement. And second of all, in the state of Florida, I want you to post down below whether or not you believe that you are required to let law enforcement know upon contact whether you are carrying or not. I want you to comment below and let me know if you believe you are required to let law enforcement know upon contact while we watch the rest of this clip. Take a look.
More protesting across the country tonight after the police shooting death of a Minnesota man.
Driver's license, registration, and concealed carry permit, if you have one, on the dash. As the officer approaches, make it known you have a gun. Lastly, Crockett wants people to remember there is no such thing as a routine stop for law enforcement officers.
Traffic stop or a policeman approaching a car is one of the most dangerous things that they do in their job. You know, whether it's a suburban housewife or some guy like me, if you don't do everything right, you put yourself and others at risk.
Crockett does have other tips as well that we've posted on KSL.com, but he says one of the biggest things is to just remain calm. You know, we all get a little bit nervous when we get pulled over, but Mike, he says communication is key.
Guys, that's an important point. Now, there's a lot of comments coming back and forth, and this is a really interesting thing. Thumbs up if you're actually engaged in listening and learning tonight. Thumbs up right now, because I'm seeing a lot of comments come through. Some people believe in the state of Florida you do need to let law enforcement know upon contact. Some people believe that you don't. Well, the answer in the state of Florida is that no, you are not legally required to let law enforcement know upon contact whether you are carrying or not. It's up to you. But I strongly recommend that you do. And I strongly recommend that you follow the procedures outlined in that video. What I do when I get pulled over, which happens quite often, is I put all the windows down in my truck. I put my interior light on, day or night. I take my license to carry, I put it over my driver's license, and I hold it out the window just a little bit. And as they approach the vehicle and see my license to carry, well, they know some things about me, right? I mean, they see my license plate. It says gun guy, so they kind of know what they're getting into anyway. But when they see that license to carry, they know that I've got no history of felonies. They know I've got no history of violence against law enforcement. They know I'm probably not drinking and driving. They know that I probably don't have drugs or alcohol in the car, and they treat you that way. Now, whether you decide to let law enforcement know upon contact or not, that is entirely up to you. But remember that if an officer asks you specifically, you are not ever allowed to lie to a police officer. Very important that we think these things through and give a good example to law enforcement because they are under a tough rap right now in this country. Very important that we suggest that we do. And John says, not required in Florida, but it's a good idea. Tony Bufulco says, but I wouldn't reach for it. Norberto Cristobal says, in Texas, you need to. And Ken Blass says, not in New York either. Ken, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Bill Kendall says, not in Missouri, but first things first, you say is good afternoon. I have my concealed carry permit and my concealed carry pistol on my right hip. My license is on the dash. Now, so very important that we understand that it is our right to privacy in the state of Florida. We do not need to let them know upon contact, but I highly recommend you do. Now, I want you guys to know as we're going through tonight that this is not legal advice. We're not giving you legal advice based on what to do out there. We're just giving our opinions for entertainment purposes only. Now, take a look at what happens in Tampa when an idiot of idiots starts robbing a store. Take a look. This man walks into a normal everyday grocery store in the state of in the city of Tampa, and you can see he has pretty much a limp left arm. We zoom in there to kind of take a look and see what he's doing, but he's walking around, and as he's walking around, he's grabbing stuff and just putting it in his pocket and stealing it. Now, I want you to comment below as we're watching, do you believe that you would have been able to use a firearm to stop this guy from leaving the store, right? Do you believe that you would have been able to have drawn your gun and pointed your gun at this guy as he is walking around stealing things, putting things in his pocket? Would you as a civilian or you as an employee of the store been able to draw your gun and point it at this guy as he's walking around stealing? I want you guys to comment below what you think. Bill says no. Brett McFarland says no. Chuck Schuster says absolutely not. Tony says no. Carol says stealer. No, I wouldn't. Now, he walks out. Okay. Carissa says only if it's a felony burglary. Brian Sharp says no. Now, I want you to tell me if you would have drawn on the guy the second time he came in the store. Take a look. A man suspiciously the same height, weight, shape, suspiciously with a limp left arm, suspiciously with the same walking limp, comes in. Would you have used your firearm in this situation? Same guy, same place, an hour later. You can see his finger is clearly on the trigger as he's, pointing his gun in different directions. Tony now says yes. Carol says if he's going to harm, yes. Deborah says yes. Brian says he would be shot. David says no, call the police. And here he comes back with his gun pointed with his limp left arm as well. And he comes back for more. Brett McFarland says pew, pew, pew. Kevin says shot him. Robert says yes. Michael Danielson says, darn, my grandma. I meant to say here in Wisconsin, I do have my concealed carry permit. And Bill says he would have been waiting for the flash. Now, it is very clear in this particular video that if there is not a firearm out, that you cannot be using a gun. But if the guy comes back in and he's got a gun or a knife or a bat or a club or anything like that, yes, it would absolutely be lawful. Now, one of the other places that you're not allowed to carry, as Brian Sharp mentioned before, is a place of a sporting event. Any sort of sporting event or anything like that, you are not allowed to carry. Take a look at what happened at a Florida event here on live video.
I'm on Facebook Live. We live right now.
A man capturing a Thanksgiving tradition on Facebook Live. Ended up recording a fatal shooting.
Right now, real talk.
The Juice Bowl is an annual event in Louisville, Kentucky. Kids gather to play football at Shawnee Park on Thanksgiving afternoon while people cook in the parking lot. But this year, police say the fun was interrupted by gunfire after some men in the park got into a dispute. 2 people were killed and 5 more were injured. Investigators say the shooting doesn't seem to be connected to the Juice Bowl, but it did cancel the rest of play and marred this innocent tradition that brought so much joy to the community. For InsideEdition.com, I'm Mara Montalbano.
Welcome. We are joined tonight by Miss Lindsay, an actual attorney in the state of Florida who just also happens to be my girlfriend. So those of you at home watching it, gentlemen, watch your words. Her boyfriend owns a gun shop. Lindsay, thank you for joining. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, since this is the first time that you've been able to join us on the show?
Sure. So I grew up in Pennsylvania. I came down here for law school, and my dad, being 1,000 miles away, was not happy about me not having a concealed carry permit. So he got on my case for months to come to this free concealed carry class. And finally, Andy did a mobile class close to where I live, and I couldn't really say no, and that's how I met Andy. Now, I do practice criminal law. I'm not here tonight to give anybody legal advice or to, act as your attorney. But I do have my concealed carry permit, and I like to keep up to date with what's legal and what's not for how to use my firearm if I ever need to.
Absolutely. We got some comments here. Helen Crowley says, hi, Lindsay. Nikki Caro says, hey there, nice to meet you. Tim Farrell says, good evening. Gabriel Novotny says, hey, Lindsay. And
Hi, Gabriel.
Jacob says, someone got on an attorney's case, LOL. Jeff Hopton says, I bet you never win an argument, do you? No, it's very true. When you are dating an armed attorney, things typically don't go your way. Now, Lindsay, is there anything that has stood out for you in your experience with Florida gun supply here? Anything that you want to brag about or talk about a little bit?
Well, there's this that I did yesterday.
I'm going to wrapped up there. There you go. Tell us what you did yesterday.
Well, this is my Valentine's Day present. Andy treated me to the AR-15 build class, which was a lot of fun.
Move it over this way a little bit so people can see it. There you go. Move it this way. It's an AR-15 build class. So basically, yesterday, Lindsay was given a pile of parts that looked very similar to this.
I turned it into this.
And she turned it into that. Was it a good time?
It was a great time.
Good, good. All right, I'll take that out of your way. And I'll pass that over to Chris. Now, for those of you who were watching our live feed when we said, hey, can you guess? There were 5 AR-15s in that box. If you remember that video, you know what I'm talking about. Luke Caldwell says, looking good, Lindsay. Carol Hobbs says, nice gun. Brett McFarland says, nice AR. Now, Lindsay, as you were getting into the video, we were playing this video about a situation that occurred at a sporting event, right? The guy was recording a live video. And, you know, can you kind of walk us through, are we allowed to carry at our kids' soccer games or baseball games or football games, or are we not? There's a lot of confusion going around about that.
Yeah, as long as it's not a professional sporting event, you should be fine to carry. If there's any concern over whether you should carry, you probably shouldn't. But your kids' sporting events is fine. It's not professional sports.
I would say as long as it's not at a location that's already designated as illegal to carry, a school or anything like that. Now, Lindsay has not, for those of you at home, Lindsay has not been able to watch this the next videos that we're going to be going through. So she hasn't had a time to take a look at them or analyze them. We're going to be analyzing them on the fly. But I want to play a video for you that occurred at a McDonald's with an employee of McDonald's and a regular bad guy. And a fight happening in the background. And I want you guys to comment below as you're watching if you believe that the employee did the right thing. And again, Lindsay is not here to give specific legal advice. It's not legal advice. All we're doing tonight is giving our opinion for entertainment purposes only. Take a look. Now you can see an employee of McDonald's grappling with a guy. Now you can see there that the employee pulls out a gun as he's grappling with the guy. I want you to comment below. I'm going to play this. I'm going to replay this a couple times. I want you to comment below. Do you believe that the employee was justified in bringing this gun out in this situation? I'm going to keep replaying it, and you can let us know what you believe would have occurred. Do you believe that this would have been a lawful use of a firearm, pulling out this gun in this particular situation, or if this employee overreacted? We're going to play this a couple more times. Do you believe that this firearm was drawn in the right way? We're going to play this video all the way to the end this time. Take a look what happens. They're grappling. The gun is out. And they're grappling even more. Now, do you believe that that was a justifiable use of a firearm? We've got a lot of people commenting on here. We've got Sean Russell saying no, dumb move. Carol Hobbs saying yes. Tim Farrell saying no. Gregory saying no. Becky saying both. Mike Moore saying not enough info. Scott Fales said, did the bad guy have a firearm? From what we saw, no. Carissa saying no. And David saying, if the employee fought with their life was endangered. Miss Lindsay, what do you think?
They definitely should not have pulled a gun out. And what my dad told me when I first got my permit when I was 21, do not pull out your gun if you're not going to fire it. Because that's what happened right there was a very dangerous thing, continuing to grapple and fight with each other with a gun out. First of all, it didn't need to escalate to that point. And second of all, you shouldn't be unholstering your firearm unless you plan on shooting it because you need to shoot it.
Now, would there have been a situation where the McDonald's employee pulling that gun would have been legally justified?
Sure. If there's any kind of weapon introduced that escalates the situation from beyond just, regular injury to serious injury.
So if the bad guy had a W word of his own, a knife, a stick, a batter gun, or a club, or I guess if the Walmart or the McDonald's employee had been a girl, what do you think?
Sure. You can have serious bodily injury without involving a W word. If there's a huge disparity in power from one person to the other, if one of them was a child and the other one was an adult, it wouldn't matter to me if there was a W word or not. There's a chance that someone's going to get very, very hurt or killed.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things, Lindsay, that a lot of people, and I hear in these classes that we teach, a lot of people believe that if somebody is trespassing on your property in the state of Florida, you can use your firearm. I'm going to play a quick video about an incident that happened in Texas, and then let's talk about what would have happened here in Florida.
A suspected robber is in the hospital today after a homeowner caught him climbing over his back fence. The homeowner opened fire, hitting the man twice. Now, frightened neighbors in a North Houston neighborhood are sharing their concerns with our reporter, Rekha Mudaraj.
Up and down East Johnish Road here, most homes have bars on their windows. Neighbors here say it's a pretty safe area, but they aren't taking any chances, especially after what happened at this home last night. You can't miss the signs posted around this North Houston home, but Monday night, an intruder just plain ignored them, jumping over a high fence and into the bed of a truck. The homeowner came out to investigate.
He confronted him inside the locked backyard.
Just around the corner, Norma Casillas also has a story. She says an intruder is why her father is in a wheelchair.
An intruder broke the burglar bar, broke the door down, tried to rape me. He came in and they fought for the gun. I ran to get help, but by that time he shot him in the head.
So here's the deal. In the state of Texas, you're legally allowed to defend your personal property using a firearm. Lindsay, what would have happened in the state of Florida if the criminal had jumped the fence, landed in somebody's yard, and they used a gun?
They would not have been justified to use force to defend property in Florida. Again, for those of you joining, I'm not here to act as anybody's lawyer. I'm not here to answer anybody's specific legal questions about a case or anything like that. But in this situation, in Florida, you're not justified to use deadly force in protection of property.
Absolutely. Now, would there have been a situation where somebody would have been lawfully able to use a firearm from a bad guy jumping the fence and landing in their yard?
Jumping the fence changes things a little bit because an enclosed area in Florida around your house makes that curtilage part of your dwelling. So that's a burglary at that point. Now, it depends. You know, if you're in a situation where you really feel like your life is in danger, your family's life's in danger, then of course. But it's an objective thing. No one can say for sure whether or not it would be justified.
Now, we all know, Lindsay, that one of the places that we can't carry is inside of a school or a school facility. Take a look at what happened, guys. Those of you at home, when a school board meeting went horribly wrong.
The beginning of this story seems tragically familiar. An angry man interrupted a school board meeting in Panama City, Florida today, blamed them for firing his wife, and then leveled a handgun. He said he planned to die and apparently had every intent to kill. What you're about to see now is graphic, but what happened in the end was nothing short of astonishing.
Business as usual stopped when 56-year-old Clay Duke stepped to the front of the room and began spray painting a wall with an ominous red symbol seen in the movie V for Vendetta.
The facial expressions on the board members kind of hinted that something odd was happening, and then I saw the gun.
Nadine Yanis, a reporter for local station WMBB, hit the floor as Duke ordered the women and children from the room. Moments later, board member Ginger Littleton sneaks behind Duke and tries to knock the gun from his hand with her purse.
If he wanted to kill her at that moment, he could have, and he didn't.
Duke lets her go, and tension builds as he rants at the male board members over a sales tax increase, while Superintendent Bill Husfeld tries to calm him.
Just listen to me for a minute. I don't want anybody to get hurt.
And I've got a feeling that what you want is the cops come in and kill you because you're mad, because you said you're going to die today. But why? If this isn't worth it. This is a problem. Please don't. Please don't. Please.
Duke fires wildly. 4 shots. All of them miss. He then crumples to the floor, shot from the back of the room by Chief of Security Mike Jones, a former detective. As he lay wounded, police say Duke then used a remaining bullet to take his own life.
Police were alerted immediately. They were there within minutes, and we had both the Bay County Sheriff's Office and the Panama City Police Department there.
Now, we just saw what happened in this tragic video, right? A guy comes into the school board. It's obviously not legally allowed to be carrying, and he was stopped with a good guy with a gun. Do you think that if that happens, you know, it's not lawful to carry there, but what do you think would happen in that situation if it was one of us and we were carrying unlawfully or whatever the case may be?
It's hard to say, Andy. It really depends on the prosecutor, the district attorney, whatever the case may be, and you know, it would be up to their discretion at that point. My opinion is I don't think that anyone would file, you know, somebody that saved the lives of all the people in the room.
Absolutely. Now, very important that we understand, guys, about carrying in churches. A lot of people have questions. Can we carry at a church? Can we not carry at a church? No. I want you to comment below. First of all, I want you guys to thank Lindsay for being here. Thumbs up and the heart button left and right. Thumbs and hearts. I've got a video to show you about carrying at a church, and we're going to talk about what the law says about carrying at churches. Okay, the church video that I want to show you is an obstruction. Take a look.
Yeah, 507. Look. Gang, gang. Gang, gang. Somebody said make history. Gang, gang.
Together with the sacrificial offerings, so that purified by your graciousness, we may be of your
hey!
love.
What it do? I got, bro. I got, bro. What's wrong with you, bro? Hey! I was letting everybody know the boom game, you feel me? Hey, you doing that side shit, you know what I'm saying? Hey, watch out. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's good? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What you want to do in boom game, you know what I'm saying? What's up? What you mad? What you mad, bro? What's up? What you mad? What you mad? What's up? What's up, bro? What's up, bro? What you mad? You mad? And I'm doing my job. What's up? What you mad, bro? What's up? What's up? What you gonna do, son? What's up, son? What's up? Hey, what's up, son? What's up, son? Turn it off. What's up? She said turn it off. Yes, get out. She said turn it off. Boom game, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Now, you see this guy walking into a church, clearly disrupting, clearly out of his mind. Now, this particular guy does this sort of thing on YouTube all the time. I've watched dozens of his videos. He's a terrible human being, going around and you know, he'll go to New York City and he'll jump on a street vendors and knock it over and steal all their stuff and run away. And it's all for getting YouTube followers. Now, number one, can we carry at churches? And number two, would it have been lawful to introduce a firearm in this situation?
So first of all, you can carry in churches, and lately you've been encouraging people to carry at churches because of everything that's been happening. It shouldn't be a situation where you're walking into a room full of people who aren't armed and you can just slaughter everybody. Now, would it be lawful to enter?
Do you think it would have been lawful for one of the parishioners in this particular situation to have introduced a firearm with this crazed guy? It's a tough question.
Yeah,
Guys, I want you to comment below. As Lindsay answers, I want you to comment below what you would have done.
I would say no, but not being seated in the pews, I don't know what they were feeling, and you know, they don't know what kind of drugs or mental illness is going on, and he could really pose a threat to somebody. At that point, what we saw, I don't see a need to introduce a firearm.
Absolutely. One of the things that we do at Florida Gun Supply is we do have a firearm training program specifically designed for churches. So if you have a crazed guy coming in, what to do, when to escalate to deadly force, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm gonna pause the church situation right here. We've created a video specifically about churches, and I want to play it as a reminder to those of you who do go to church. Thumbs up if you believe that going to church is still a great thing to do in this country.
I've gone to church my entire life, and I've always thought, nothing will ever happen to you at church because it's the safest place you could be.
This video is not about getting people into our free concealed carry classes. This is a public service announcement that if we go to church, we need to carry a gun, and Florida law has our back on that. It is completely legal to carry a gun in the state of Florida while you're at church.
I've known Andy for 6 years. I've watched him train thousands of students in his class, and every single class he tells them, if you go to church, you need to carry a gun on you. And everybody looks at him like he's a crazy person. But then Texas happens. We need to make sure that we're prepared for any situation.
If you agree that more people carrying daily will save lives, then I want you to share this video and spread this public service announcement as far as we can. This is Andy with Florida Gun Supply. My message is to get armed, get trained, carry daily, and long live the Republic. Now, this video was created after Texas, but it is very important that we do carry at churches. Thumbs up if you agree with that. Helen says he was only being a destructive D-bag. A firearm isn't necessary for verbal stupidity. Jeff says would have been escorted out forcefully. Brian says, nah, seriously, I wouldn't have busted him in his pie hole and drug his unconscious limp body to the curb. I agree that would have been the right response. Now, this is a very interesting situation. I'm going to do my best to stump you, Miss Lindsay. I'm going to play a video, and I'm going to ask you some very difficult questions afterwards. Take a look at a security guard behaving badly and what could have happened. Take a look.
Did you just tell me to move the car? Say it again. Say it again. Did you? If not, call the cops, because you are blocking me from leaving. Do one or the other. Because if not, I will move your car. You will not stop me from moving your cart from behind my vehicle unless you call the cops, right? Call law enforcement. Can you please move your cart from blocking me? You're a security guard. I see it on your cart. You're a security guard. Can you please remove your cart from blocking me into this parking garage?
What, you gonna shoot him for moving? Hey, he has a gun, dude.
Go ahead. You're on video, bro. You're on video. I didn't touch you. You're on video.
Matt, go. Matt, go.
Hey, back up. Go.
What, you gonna shoot him for moving? Hey, yes.
Now, in this particular situation, nobody was hurt. But Lindsay, I've got a question. Number one, would the security guard have been authorized to use deadly force in this situation?
No, absolutely not.
And number two, and I know you're not giving legal advice or any sort of, and this is opinion just for entertainment, but would it have hypothetically been lawful for one of these guys in the parking garage to have used deadly force against the security guard who's clearly going crazy, grabbing a gun? Everybody at home, Krista Wallace, thanks for joining. Everybody at home, I want you to comment if you believe it would have been lawful to use firearms and deadly force against the crazed out security guard. And Lindsay, let's see what your opinion is for entertainment purposes only.
So, if a bystander seeing that was to pull a gun on the security guard, you're saying would that be lawful?
Yeah, if the security guard is obviously wrong in grabbing his gun, would it have been legally justified for one of these guys to have drawn a gun to defend themselves?
Well, everything about use of force is, an objectively reasonable standard. So if there's a bystander makes a convincing enough case that these are the facts as I saw them, and this is what I believed I had to do to save this person from getting harmed, then of course.
Now, one of the reasons that I invited you on the show tonight, besides you're a lot better looking than I'll ever be, is thumbs up for that, by the way, you mentioned that there's recent law that has changed in the state of Florida as far as prosecution goes. Can you kind of explain that a little bit? I guess there's another step that prosecution has to go through, or what is all that about?
Yeah, it has to do with the stand your ground defense. So if someone uses deadly force on another person and they're arrested, they can bring up as a defense that they were standing their ground and that they had that they were justified in using the force, and that negates any criminal charges that could be brought against them. So what's changed recently is that at that stand your ground hearing, it used to be on the person using the self-defense. In other words, the person that had to draw their gun and fire and then got arrested as a result. The burden used to be on them to prove that they were justified in invoking the stand your ground rule. And recently it's been changed so that the burden's on the prosecution to prove that it wasn't lawful self-defense. And that happens before any trial is brought. So essentially you could lose the stand your ground hearing and then still bring the defense at trial and get kind of another crack at the same defense. Those of you who watched Brian Sharp, his show a few weeks ago, not everybody has a crystal clear video showing exactly what happened to help them prove that they were justified in drawing their weapon. So, while this is an extra step that...
You owe me $1 for using the W word.
Oh, shoot. You threw me all off
That's
when
all
you
right.
did that thing.
That's all right. So Brian Sharp, he clearly had video. Let's say that somebody at home didn't have video.
Yeah. So basically, from a concealed carrier's perspective, this change in the law is a really good thing because it takes the burden off us to prove that we did the right thing, and it puts the burden on the state to prove that we didn't. Before we can have charges brought against us. Because the last thing I want to be thinking about, should I ever have to draw my firearm, is how I'm going to prove that this is the right thing to do.
Tony Bufulco says you should have to pay $2. Oh, that's great. All right, so...
Well, my fee for being on here is $1, so we're even.
Good. All right, here's another video, Lindsay, about another security guard. This is a video that we've all seen before, but I want to get your take on it. Getting the mute button off here. So the guy walks in, just guns ablazing, and the bad guys have fake guns. Would this have been legally justified?
Again, yes, because it's based on an objective standard. It's not based on, I found out later that it was a fake gun, so I wasn't justified. And this is something that I see on a regular basis. Kids carrying BB guns that don't look like BB guns. And it's a very dangerous thing, and we need to make sure kids don't have things that look like firearms from a distance, because it could cause a situation to escalate that, I'm not used to the distraction.
We're talking about the W word. Michelle Nieves says, "What is the W word?" Would you explain to Michelle what the W word is?
So, Andy in his classes does not like us to use a word that I already used.
Weapon. The word weapon. Weapon.
$5.
We don't like the word weapon because the media takes that word and they spin it, right? And they spin it for their gain. So anytime a lawful concealed carrier uses a firearm in self-defense, the media spins it to make it look like the lawful guy was the bad guy, and the guy that was putting human life at risk was looking like the victim. So we don't like the W word because, to me, a handgun is used to defend human life, not to take it. So that's kind of our goal in using our guns, to defend life, not to take it. So you do think that that guy would have been justified just walking in guns blazing?
Yeah, because there was no way for him to know that that was a fake gun. And he doesn't have any responsibility to wait until it is fired to find out if it's real or not.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's when it's too late at that point. Now, guys, those of you at home, give another thumbs up for Lindsay. We're going to come back and do a little bit of show and tell and have all the time in the world to answer all of the questions that you may have for Lindsay. So start writing your questions down below while we watch the new promo for the 2018 promotional video going on right now for our free concealed carry classes. Take a look. To protect our children, stand out from the herd and unite with everyday Americans who are taking a stand to protect our children, lead our communities, and stand up for our country. We denounce racism and all other forms of hate and live our lives with one simple motto: get armed, get trained, carry daily, and long live the Republic. Now, guys, I have a question for you. I'm seeing people saying goodnight and things like that, which is great, but I would like to know, if we changed our time on Monday nights from 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, would that be better for you? And I want you to send us a private message. Don't just comment below. Send us a private message with what you think, if it would be better to change this time slot on Monday nights from 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Now, it is show and tell time while you guys ask your questions of Lindsay. Lindsay, I understand that you brought a firearm that you would like to show off a little bit and explain. Is this the gun that you carry every day?
Oh, this is the gun that I carry every day.
Clear. This is a Sig Sauer P238. It is also Lindsay's carry gun. What do you like about this gun?
The colors.
I'm so glad that you were on the show tonight. This is great. And Lindsay, why don't we push our seats back a little bit and see if we can do show and tell with the white fluffy thing.
Well, I was trying. Oh, that thing.
Yes. Yes.
He's been good
Come here, boy.
today.
Loki.
Come here. This is my legal assistant.
Come here, boy.
Up.
This is Loki. He's a what? He's a snow dog?
He's an American Eskimo.
He's American Eskimo. Everybody say hi, Mr. Loki. Now, let's look through some questions. Chris, are you seeing any questions come through? No. We have Jacob Novotny saying, I've got the 938. I love it. Helen says, Andy, do you know if Colorado has reciprocity law for concealed carry? Could we take your class the next time we're in Florida? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to pull up the national reciprocity list again for you to take a look. These are the states that you are legally allowed to carry, and Colorado is absolutely one of them. Further, any United States citizen can get a license to carry in the state of Florida. You can get a non-resident license that will allow you to carry. Brian says, your gun is almost as cute as you. Brian, you better watch it. Kevin says, hey, pup. Nikki says, I've got 4 guns. Gabriel Novotny says, okay, Lindsay, my question to you is, can you tell me something about Andy that he doesn't want us to know? Just start talking.
Oh, I thought you muted it. So
I tried to mute. Do you have something about me that everybody wants to know that I don't want people to know?
Probably that Christopher and I bought you a pair of underwear that had the abominable snowman on them for Christmas.
It's true.
That's a little known fact.
I'm actually wearing those right now. It's true. It's true. George McClellan says, when are the Smith & Wesson new 380s coming in? I don't have an answer for that. Helen Crowley says, thank you. Colorado has open carry too. Ken Blass says, good seeing you again, Lindsay. Guys, listen, this has been another great advo. Jeff Hopkins says, do you think concealed carry insurance is a good idea? I get this question all the time, and I'm on the fence. What people are referring to is the USCCA insurance or U.S. Law Shield. In my opinion, in the state of Florida, you are legally allowed to use your firearm in self-defense, and you are protected from liability. So you are not legally allowed to be sued civilly if you're not held criminally liable. So in the state of Florida, you are not required to have insurance. It may be a good idea, especially if you're traveling out of state. Okay, very important that if you are traveling out of state, it may be a good idea because you can get sued in other states. Now, guys, thank you so much for joining. One more time, I want you to give Lindsay a big thumbs up for being here. As always, this is Andy with Florida Gun Supply. If you have not joined the NRA just yet, I want you to join the NRA. You can do so at www.fgsnra.com. And I also want you to, if you are interested in becoming a firearms instructor, you can learn more about that process at www.joinfgs.com. It is a very important thing to do. Bill Kendall says, oh my Lord, Andy thinks, oh, I can't even recite that one. Guys, one more time, thank you, Miss Lindsay, for joining. Thank you, Mr. Loki.
He does like Andy, I promise.
As always, this is Andy with Florida Gun Supply. My message is to get armed, get trained, carry daily, and long live the Republic. Just a reminder that we are the NRA and we are the media, and it is up to us to share videos like this to spread the word about a better, safer America. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining me. Good night. Holy smokes. What is up with this dog tonight? Jeez.
Stop it.
Wow.
Go sit down.
Well, that was a good show. Lindsay, thanks for joining. That was great. Oh, that was a great show. Sean says the dog knows that Andy is trouble.
Oh my God, I was going to say the same thing.
What is it with you bringing up my underwear on live show tonight?
I mean, it was just the first thing that came to mind, and I think that Gabriel enjoyed that comment.
What I think is funny is how you have matching underwear to Harbor's pajamas.
People are lucky that I didn't prove that was the underwear that I'm wearing tonight. That was a good show. Thanks for joining, Lindsay. Did you have fun?
I did have fun.
Good. I was waiting for all the guys to be like making bad comments, so I would have to.
You mean like this person on YouTube that I
block that person? Did you block him?
Oh, well, I have it set so that YouTube doesn't allow things like that to come through.
Oh, good. We'll block him anyway. Bye, Felicia.
Don't use that kind
Nobody
of
gets to say that you're hot except for me.
That is nonsense talk.
No, we shouldn't be saying words like that about a lady. This is a lady! A classy chick.
A little lady.
It was funny because people were, saying that I was scoring points with you tonight, and I was like, "Yep, I am." I'm out of the doghouse for like a week on this one.
I mean, anytime you buy me a gun, that buys you about a week.
So how many guns has Andy got you so far?
2.
2.
So we've had 2 good weeks together.
Look at this person, Patricia Lovin' Jesus Corey Pitts. That's a long name, huh?
That's a really long name.
Oh, Bill is giving away my secrets. He says I was paid to comment about Lindsay.
Not to comment.
Paid not to comment. No, I ruined the joke.
You ruin everything.
I do. Well,
people are really excited about you training them to become instructors. Do you know how many people are emailing me wanting even more information?
Make sure they sign up. We're building that program out. We just need to get it working. And we need to find out if we need to move the class, move the show until 7 or 8 o'clock next week.
Well, a lot of people already said 8.
Really?
Yeah.
I like 8.
8's a good time?
I don't like anything, so.
Nobody really likes you either.
I know.
Bruce Marcho. Wow.
He's late.
Jacob just told you that dogs are good judges of character.
Maybe we should let people know that Loki, that's what he does when he's excited, not what he does when he's angry.
No, he was mad at you. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, that didn't look like a happy face.
I think...
Loki, come here. Come here, boy. Come here, boy. Come here. What is happening?
Well, it's past his bedtime.
Loki.
Loki says he wants to do it at 8.
That's his happy growl, right?
Yeah, he's smiling now.
Oh my gosh, you have white fur all over you now.
Oh my gosh.
I waited till the end of the show to give him the bear hug, that's why.